So today I'm going to look into the history of our education system because many believe that we need to take a few steps back and go back to our old methods of education. And hopefully, I'm going to present you with some information that might, lead you to believe that we need a revamp, or maybe that we don't need a revamp. I'm going to start with the colonial time periods. And during the colonial time periods, there was really not a public system established. And the people that were being educated were pretty much wealthy boys. And the education had a strong emphasis on religion. So it was all about religious beliefs. If you were a girl, you were not educated, and if you were poor, you were not educated. So it's kind of sad that your socioeconomic status determined whether or not you were educated. It was until the 1800s, when the Lancasterian model of education developed, that poors had a chance of education. Now, it's interesting though, their education was not similar to the one of a wealthy individual. The Lancasterian model was pretty much geared to teaching individuals obedience and discipline, because eventually they wanted these individuals to become factory workers. So as we move on, so far we've seen that there's a difference between gender and socioeconomic status in our education. In the late 1800s, we come about with the Plessy versus Ferguson case. This was kind of like after the Civil War, and there's been slavery. So the Plessy versus Ferguson case, it determined that separation between whites and black was okay. So they said it was constitutional as long as it was separate but equal. That's what they called it. But in reality, if we look at our education system, it was not an equal education system for blacks and whites. And this is evident in 1954 during the Brown versus the Board of Education, where a case was demonstrated where a girl was not allowed to go into a African American school, into a white school, because she was African American. So here we see that the Supreme Court said, you know what, it is unconstitutional for us to be segregating between the races. So they tried to integrate the blacks and the whites. But while they were doing this, they were kind of sneaky. They chose to use the Hispanics. Hispanics were given the label of white. So if you look at the school systems, or if you look at data in the 1900s, a lot of schools were strongly either white or white and Hispanic. And usually your white and Hispanic schools were... their building structure was not okay. They were pretty much coming down. Their books were missing pages. So the education that the Hispanics and the blacks were getting was not equal. It was not fair. And it's obvious also in 1971, in a case that took place in Corpus Christi, where a little girl also, she noticed that her school was not the same as the one that the white people went to, and her father took the case to the court system, and it was pretty much determined that yes, Hispanics and blacks were still being discriminated. So as far as what we've seen, we're in 1971, education has not been fair. There's a separation of culture, of race, gender, economic status. So if you think about it, do you really want to go to an education system where you're going to be seen as different, you're going to have a different opportunity based on the color of your skin, or even your ability, because around the 1900s also, students were giving intelligence tests, and they were also separated based on their level of intelligence. So education, again, not fair. 1975, that's when we're starting to see that there is problems in our education system, and we need to do something about it. So in 1975, the Education of Handicapped Children Act, which was later labeled or named IDEA in the 1990s, it asks for equal education for students with disabilities. That means we need to do whatever it takes to make sure that even our students with learning disabilities are learning. So to me, it seems like kind of recent. 1975 it's not based on the history of education. Since I took you back to the 1700s, it's taken a long time for it to discover that there's some flaws and that we need to fix them. Then also in 2013, there was the Public School Choice Act, and it also ties with the No Child Left Behind, where we're trying to hold schools accountable of academics that are English language learners are actually acquiring the new language. So in the Public School Choice Act, parents are given pretty much a choice of where their children are going to be educated. They can either choose charter school, homeschool, private, public school setting. So if you ask me, should we go back to our old educational system? I would have to disagree, because it's just not fair. I wouldn't like to be judged based on my color, the color of my skin, or based on my intelligence ability, and end up in a situation where I'm not going to get a fair education. So like I said, 1975 was pretty much maybe like a starting point where we started to notice that there was not some equal education, that we needed to focus on our students with learning disabilities. We needed to integrate. So I don't think we need to go back to our old ways. I think that our education system is currently trying to get better, and we just need to give our the system a chance. We're discovering the problems and we're looking for the solutions. Of course, as teachers, we're always learning, so we need to continue to learn and seek methods of teaching that are going to help our students, and also focus on their social and emotional development, because that plays a big part of their the way they learn. So that is my view on whether or not the education needs to be revamped, and I hope that based on the facts provided, you can maybe change your mind if you think that we need to go back to our old ways. Thanks for watching.